And away we go.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another Northeast Performance Community Coaches question and answer session. I'm joined today by the awesome Stephen Gordon and Simon Trenholm. Hi guys.
How you doing?
Good. How are we all doing? How's your week's been?
Go on, Si. I'm gonna have a drink, mate.
You're gonna drink water.
You need to drink first.
Pretty good week. Pretty good week. Yep. Had some real good tasty food. Coming to the end of the strength block with my training. So see what next 4 weeks holds, which is always exciting. I didn't die with the strength stuff. So yeah, all is good. Been sleeping reasonably well this week as well, to be honest.
Awesome. Sleep out.
Stuff. Yeah, it's been a good week. Got a uni assignment handed in, so that's kind of a bit of a big weight off my shoulders. Embraced the lockdown haircut, so still adapting to it. It's a good job it's summer and it's not as cold. All in all, yeah, it's been good. It's been a bit of a transitional week for myself. There's still a lot of questions that I need to go through my own mind, but started reading a new book. Well, going back over an old book, and that's forced me to get a little bit more centered. And yeah, so I'm feeling like I'm in a good place at the moment, which is all good. So yeah. Not bad. How's your week been, Cheryl?
Yeah, I've had a good week as well. Yeah, it's been an enjoyable week in terms of training. Despite the long cycle sets on Wednesday night, it has been an enjoyable week. Yeah, it's been good. And work-wise, yeah, we've had some really good sessions. And just trying to think, sleep-wise, it's been pretty well. I think, yeah, I'm nice and calm at the moment. It's good. I think Mike and I were just saying the other day, we're really lucky. I think feel very lucky as a family. We've got some sense of normality. He's still going out to work and things, and so yeah, we're in quite a good place, which is nice. So yeah.
It's good to hear. Good stuff. I think I think that's it. Sometimes you just need to recognize when you are in a good situation, or recognize when you're not as in a bad situation as what you can perceive it to, which I think kind of leads on to the topic which we're chatting about today, which is kind of stress,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely all about perceptions, isn't it? There's people out there who are in a lot worse situation, and they were in an even worse situation before this COVID pandemic even kicked off. So I think sometimes we need to remind ourselves that yeah, we're actually still quite lucky and blessed in some form or another, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and yeah, stress. Obviously, I think at the moment it's heightened, isn't it, for people as they're spending that time with themselves, I suppose, as well. So a lot more time to think about things, and some people are really embracing that and taking it as a time to reflect, and some people are getting really stressed out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an interesting one. But I suppose, should we kick off with a bit of an understanding of what stress actually is?
Yeah, it's one of those words, isn't it? And I think it's something that's kind of as soon as we talk about stress, automatically you get this negative connotation of someone with their head in their hands, or biting the fingernails, or I'm off work with stress. It's kind of got that. He's really stressed out, or whatever it may be, and it's got a massive negative connotation in there. And it's kind of how you're reacting to a current situation, or a perceived situation. But there's also the other flip side of it, which is eustress, which is the type of stress that you put on your body when you're training. So I think sometimes we don't need to look at it as a totally bad thing. Stress is where stuff develops and grows. So I think sometimes looking at that word, we've got to look at how we actually handle that word, and rather than seeing it as such a negative word, we need to see it for what it actually is. And I suppose it's like anything, is it? There's good and bad in absolutely everything that there is,
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, with new stress, if we don't place stress upon the body in training, then we won't progress, we won't overload. So
Yeah.
we need it. It's essential, isn't it, to progress when you're training.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, I don't know, for me anyway, with stress, I'm one of those people that actually I like a bit of what you call stress. I like a bit of pressure, and I probably work better in that situation. And it's kind of, like you say, how people actually perceive that situation. Is it, if you see that as a good thing, it will be a good thing. If you see it as a bad thing, it'll be a bad thing,
Yeah. There's a story which Zig Ziglar talks about. I don't know if people have ever heard of him. He's a motivational speaker. He's just great to listen to. Sometimes you just automatically put you in a good mood. And he uses a story where his friend gave him a phone call and says, right, I've got us a all expenses holiday trip of a lifetime to Copacabana, from when it was when it was thriving. And then he's like, oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, me and the wife will come and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden it's like, right, you've got to be at the airport ready to fly on Friday, and this is on the Monday when he gets the call. And it's kind of one of them, isn't it? It's you can either go, right, or all of a sudden you've got a deadline. That's going to cause a bit of stress. You got to work. Oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to get it done. But at the other side of it is the trip of a lifetime, and I think that's the way sometimes we've got to look at it in terms of deadline stress. And I think it'd be good for us to sort of segment them down, like deadline stress or competition day stress. Simon's a bloody good one when it comes to competition day stress, the way he flaps around. But you've got competition stress, but then you've got, and I think they're sort of like events, and that's like event specific stress. And I think the way you handle them and deal with them is different to other forms of stress. So what I mean by other forms of stress is perceived stress, like at this moment in time, there's all what ifs and buts and maybes and this and that causes stress because the brain hates uncertainty. The brain needs certainty in its life because certainty is safe. Certainty is not getting eaten by an animal. That's our genetic makeup. That's the way our brains are. But I think how we handle them and how we deal with them are two different things. And they do have a bit of synergy and they do intertwine a little bit, but I think it's important just to look at them and just say, actually, first and foremost, what are you stressed? Are you stressed by a specific deadline? I.e. me last week with uni deadlines, or Simon competitions, Charlotte competitions, or running a program or whatever it may be? Or is it stress at ifs, what ifs, buts and maybes kind of thing,
Definitely, because I think with these stresses that you might have, say for a competition, we can have our own personal strategies that are in place to make sure that stress, we deal with it. And whereas the stress of something potential that might not be a regular occurrence, but that looms upon you, for example, the current situation, they are quite different, aren't they? Because we know we've got a comp on, say, the 1st of September. We know that week we're going to feel a certain way, and we know we've been there before. So we deal with it in a certain way, and each time we might get a little bit better at it. But when you've got something like this, it's more stress, and you can make that stress either, you can ease it or you can amplify it, can't you, with your reaction and how you respond to a situation. And often when we're stressed, we react, don't we, rather than actually thinking it through and responding right now.
I think with that, you've got to look at it is, right, we're at a theme park, we're at Alton Towers or whatever it may be. Stress that comes from a deadline or a competition is like being on the roller coaster. You get in, strap yourself in, and you're just gradually going, click, 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 right? You know I'm going down, but when you hear it's not so bad, it's getting worse, it's getting worse, it's getting, oh my God, oh, what? You're looking over the edge and then bang, gone, and it's the most exhilarating thing in the world. That's the event stress. The other stress is going through haunted house or mirrors or something where it is just different senses are coming at you from all different situations. It's like, well, what if this happens? Yeah, all right, okay, no, that won't happen. What about that? And you move on, and all of a sudden you'll get blindsided with something else of, oh, what about this? And then you move on to, and you just get peppered all of the time. But that's just your brain picking up on. It's a safety mechanism. But what you need to realize is it's how you handle that safety mechanism. You know, sometimes it's like, it's going to be a good thing because it's going to keep you safe, and it's going to make you a little bit wary. So gut instinct, we've all had that. It just doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. That's a really good thing to have. But then it's kind of like, oh, but what if the gym's not allowed to open till September? I could be sat here, and we could all be sat here going, oh yeah, what if it isn't? Oh man, what? That you know,
it becomes that fear of the unknown as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you start populating the unknown with all different scenarios.
Yeah.
You know, and it one of the other things I think that causes stress is the fear of something going wrong. Now, we as humans are fairly robust creatures. We've survived quite a lot and will continue to survive quite a lot. We'll come out of this and you know, hopefully everybody will be okay. But I mean, the stress of, say, something like an exam, I think to a certain extent, a lot of the time is not whether I'm going to pass or fail the exam. It's what I'm going to say to people when they say, how did my exam go? And I've got to then explain to them, I failed, I didn't pass, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, you know. And that fear of having to have those conversations and what are people going to think about me is also a massive thing that plays on people's minds.
Yeah, it's a good point, that, isn't it? It's about again, your perceptions, your reality, the reality, and the, you know, supposed reality that might come off from that. And the thing is, again, that's a defense mechanism, because the brain wants to keep you safe, so it will just pepper negative stuff to you all of the time, because it sees that as a way of slowing you down and keeping you in one space. You know, the brain sometimes would not mind if you just sat in the corner with a blanket and you could live till 100 years, but you know, it's got to be a pretty crummy existence, isn't it?
Yeah. Protecting the status quo, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know? So moving on to, I mean, just thinking about some of the actual the questions that we've had this week. We've had some really good questions, and a couple of them have been about the what if and what will happen when I have to go back to work, and how am I going to deal with that stress, and it's that kind of this is going to happen at some point, and you know, and I'm stressing now, and I know, you know, there's a couple of people who have said, you know, I'm stressing about the fact that I'm going to go back to work and be stressed.
Yeah.
You know, because they're not stressed at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's kind of how they can actually deal with that without it becoming an issue again. And I think it's kind of a double whammy, isn't it, that one?
Yeah. So
when you're stressing about being stressed.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you end up in that situation, I think now is the time when we've got more time to use it wisely, in terms of sharpening the saw and looking to develop new skills. New skills isn't learning a new language. You might want to do that, but if you're somebody who sort of struggles at times of high stress levels or whatever it may be, I would specifically use this time just to develop a good strategy, different coping strategies. So myself, I read a lot of philosophy to try and put stuff into perspective and to try and help me. Like, I'm quite a hot-headed person. I completely understand that, but I am nowhere near what I was like 5 years ago. Like, just completely different person, you know. And that comes down to how I perceive stuff. So what I would say to people is if you are struggling and thinking about that, I'd really focus on developing the skills and the mindset. And you might want to use stuff like, I know Simon's a big fan of Dr. Steve Peters and the Mind Chimp and managing your chimp, and you can use that with your children and stuff like that. And that's a really good way of processing information and understanding what you're going through. So I'd use.
Ironically, I was just about to make a comment about something from his books.
Yeah.
It's going to lead on from what you're saying because it agrees with it.
Yeah, and so I think if you know you're somebody who thinks about you getting a stress situation with work, and you know that from a previous life, you know, we're going to go back to some sort of normality. It might not be 100% the same, but generally speaking, because of the way England and the UK is built, we will go back to working more hours than any other country in Europe does. So we'll go back to working 40 plus hours a week. Okay. It will be just battering you down time and time again. We're still going to be doing the same sort of habits as we will, living for the weekend and stuff like that as well. So I think if you know that's coming, so why not develop the skills and the tools you need to combat that? You know, so Mind Chimp, that is a good book. If you struggle mentally in terms of how you process information, I would certainly recommend looking through that book, because that'll just force you to stop. If you're somebody who just wants to sort of reflect a little bit and develop that skill and just sort of say, right, well, actually, what we talked about a few weeks back in terms of routine, and start developing good routines now for when you go back to work. If you wake up, what's your morning routine? Is your morning routine sat up in bed, scrolling through Facebook and liking pictures of people's cats and dogs and stuff like that? Or is it getting up and journaling and reflecting? You know, is it doing a bit of reading? Is it stuff that's going to develop you further down the line? You know, use this time to develop the skills. And what you'll find is, for me personally, once you've got those skills, that when other perceived challenges come your way, you'll be able to handle them a lot better, you know. And I've really been aware of that. And I know my partner, she struggled during this period and stuff like that, you know. And I've been able to pick up on certain things and just say, listen, the statement you've just made, say it back to yourself and then add some context to it. And once you add some rationale and some thought to it, you realize I'm sometimes using a double negative with if she's talking to either Nevaeh or me or something like that, you know. So I think using this time is an important one to develop those skills. If you know you're lacking in sort of areas of routine, work on routine. If you struggle mentally, then use this time to read Managing My Chimp, you know.
I think one of the big things I got out of it was that reaction. You know, the way your brain works, you've got your chimp, which is your prehistoric, keep you safe. You've got the human, and then you've got the computer. The chimp and the computer work at pretty much the same speed in terms of reacting to things. The human does take a little bit longer to come to the party. So if you've got a situation, you can react from one of two things, from the chimp or from your computer. If you program your computer with the human part of things, i.e. build good habits, talk through scenarios, imagine scenarios where you can actually go, the next time I'm stressed, instead of the chimp going, I need to escape and I need to go and eat 4 bars of chocolate from the fridge, the computer can come in and go, actually, we've dealt with this situation before as well. We've done this, and this had a much more positive outcome. And it just stops that, very, very, loosely, it stops that reaction between, the chimp taking over, because it gives your brain something else to have a kind of anchor point from. But you can use this time now, like you said, building habits, thinking situations through. I know I'm going to be stressed because I've been stressed before. I know when I was working, things got on top of me. But use this time now to think about coping strategies, program your mind so that you are used to having those coping strategies almost as a second, something that happens without a thought, because that can then be your fallback as opposed to, I'm stressed, I'm going to run away and hide in the cupboard.
Sorry.
A second, somebody just...
What were you going to say there, Sean?
Okay. I was going to say it's also having an understanding of what's triggering that stress, isn't it? So, and I think this is when journaling comes in really, really handy, because if you're journaling something and you're saying, okay, this is what's happened today, these are the good things that happened, and this is what I'm going to do tomorrow, and this is what my aims for tomorrow. And if you're journaling what's going on and trigger points, depending on what it is you're focusing on, but if you're journaling those triggers, you can understand, then that's when the strategies come into place as well. And often I think people are getting stressed usually through there's not enough time to do anything. A lot of the people that I speak to that are stressed, if they're running their own businesses, it's often a sense of just time running away. And I think now people are taking that time to reflect and go, oh wow, I really was under pressure before, probably putting myself under pressure, and trying to do too much or whatever. Now they're resetting those buttons again and going, but then I'm going to have no time again. And it's actually now going, well, okay, this is at the moment, I'm on that kind of like 0 point and everything's good. When I go back to work, it's going to kind of gradually ease up. How can I kind of keep resetting? What can I do to get back to that feeling that I had? And even journaling now to understand what's going on, what you can focus on, so that when you go back to work, you can look back at that and go, okay, but this was a really good way for me to chill out and to relax. And it goes back to probably last week when we were talking about sleep and recovery and things. And it's actually doing things and understanding A, the triggers, and B, how you can kind of reset again to this place that we're in at the moment for a lot of people. And some people kind of struggle with journaling, but I think, and I don't do it all the time, but the times when I have done it, it really helps just to put things into perspective.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, but like I say, it's a lot of the time it is about that kind of, I'm tired and I'm running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and it's stressing me out. Actually, just reset, go back to when you reset, and what did you do then? Because there's no reason why that can't continue to a degree. And I think, and I hope as well, that this time has enabled people to realise what's important, and that time to reset is really important. And when, like you say, I hope that when we go back, that people will be able to hold on to some of that reset position.
Yeah.
We all start out like that, don't we?
Oh, definitely. And I think what's important to say is like, even if you develop these skills and these tools, it doesn't mean you're going to be infallible. There still will be times when you get stressed and you'll get caught out, but that's life. That's nature. I mean, how many times have all three of us had to give each other a kick up the backside and just say, what you going on about it? You focus on this. You focus on completely the wrong things. Just do it. There's got to be those times. But I think with journaling, I think it's quite important to, if for me, I use something like this. So each morning I go through the Daily Stoic Journal. So, and it goes hand in hand with the with the book. Now, all it is simple reflections by different philosophers over the years, Stoic philosophy, and it's just little things like that, small little paragraphs, 1 pages, just to force you to go, actually, what are you going to do if this situation occurs, or how are you reacting to this? Or because 9 times out of 10, sometimes you struggle to put thoughts down. I know I do, if I just had a blank book in terms of journaling and stuff like that. So if you do struggle with journaling, I really do recommend trying to get something that just adds that little bit of structure, because I think it's a habit. It's easy to do. It's also easy not to do. And you don't see the benefits of it right away. And when you do see the benefits of it, you sort of take it for granted, because you don't stop seeing the benefits of it right away as well, if that makes sense. Like if you miss a couple of days of journaling, you're still sort of like, oh, then all of a sudden 2 weeks has gone by and you're like, oh, I'm feeling really crappy now. Why is that? Oh, yeah, it's because I'm not reflecting, you know. So
it was the H3 plan, was it? That was I enjoyed doing that, because it just, I think that just kind of does bring you back into reality, doesn't it? And actually makes you focus on what's important and really simplifies it. And for me, that was practicing gratefulness as well, you know, and just that was a massive thing for me. And now I kind of, you know, I never really used to do that before, and I think it just made me really think. And now it's kind of automatic.
And I think it is that word think, isn't it? We are in a world of information overload. We are in a world of being told the answers to questions before we've even asked the question. Do you know, we are in a situation where everything is 100 million miles an hour, you know, and we have lost the skill of thinking in some respects. You know, I remember you sort of speaking to your daughters the other week. I think just be bored.
Yeah.
I'm bored. Good. Just be bored for a little bit. Just let your brain just tick away. Let it do some stuff. Do you know? But I think you need to. With the good thing about the H3 plan is it forces you to, like you say, just go back to those questions of what are you grateful for. What are you going to try and achieve today that's going to take you closer to your goal? That's really, really simple, but it's just that cue that makes you think, actually, you've always got something to be grateful for, you know? And I think once you develop that sense of gratitude, that just reduces that stress down.
Massively, it does. And I think also it's the 3 things. What 3 things are you going to achieve today? Because I'm a list maker, as you know, a spreadsheet maker, and I would write endless lists of things that I had to do in that day. And then because I hadn't done it, I'd be stressed because I'm like, I haven't done everything I have to do. I'm a bad person. Now I do, you know, I have lists, but they're much shorter. And I'm kind of, you know, so long as I've got a couple of things ticked off, I'm good. You know, and my stress levels, you know, they are massively reduced. Because I know I've achieved stuff. You know, stuff I have.
That's it.
You know, it might have just been put in the washing in, but I've done something.
Because at the end of the day, when you're ticking something off the list, you build confidence. Now, for me, when you walk into a room, or if I walk into a competition hall, or if I go to a public speaking event, or whatever it may be, automatically you look around the room and you go, wow, that's a confident person. And you'd be like, I don't know why, but they're a confident person. And it's generally because of posture, and they're upright and everything else as well. And I guarantee as soon as we've said posture, the amount of people that have probably been like that, I've just went, oh yeah, posture. But, but what it does is once you get a bit of confidence, you open up your chest and you're thinking, okay. And what that does is when you're looking up and your shoulders are relaxed and you're looking up to the sky, try and say something really negative about yourself. It is so difficult, you know, and this is what we're trying to get. And sometimes it sounds a bit, it's a bit fluffy and stuff like that, but it really isn't, because when we're in this situation, we're looking down and it's kind of like, I'm not achieving anything, or I've done nothing today, or work's terrible, and it just snowballs. When you stood up and you're looking up to the sky or looking up to the ceiling and stuff like that, all of a sudden it's like, try and do something negative. It is so difficult, you know, and this is what we need to try and do with the confidence. So I think going back to the questions from the guys of, and one of them works, she's self-employed, so she works long hours. She's a bit worried about she's not going to be able to stay as fit and stuff like that. Well, generally speaking, she knows what she was doing before. She can reflect now and she can go, what was necessary and what was unnecessary. So let's go back to, just because you are doing something doesn't mean you're doing it effectively. And just because your working day is, or you've been out of the house for 10, 12 hours, I'm guilty of this one. Just because I'm out of the house for 12 hours doesn't mean I've been working for 12 hours. So she knows what schedule she's got, work around it, how she can develop some good habits around that. You know, and it might be, Wednesdays is really busy but Thursdays is really quiet, and vice versa, or I just don't know. But there is, you can build certainty, and I know self-employed people, and I know I've struggled myself, when you've got that flexibility and somebody calls you and, can I book in, oh yeah, because I don't know when the next one's generally coming. But when do you book in yourself? You know, you got to think of the cups of water, isn't it? The cups of water scenario. You've got to refill your own cup. If you don't refill your own cup, other one's going to be overflowing, but you're not able to feed yourself. Do you know? So I think looking at that'll be a way of handling the stress that way. Right, I know what hours I'm going to be doing. I know what my schedule's going to be looking like. What do I have control over?
Yeah.
What don't I have control over? If you've got 20 people like turning up to your door for whatever service you're providing, and they turn up at 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, they didn't pick those times. You booked them in. You know, it's kind of that's the situation you're causing yourself. You know, you've got to focus on what you can control, not what you can't. You know.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's also been, you know, you can also become busy being busy, and it's sort of using this time to look at, you know, what was my day like? What was I doing? Was I being busy, or was I busy being effective?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, and you get those huge, you know, in your diary, you get those large blocks, big things, you know, and sometimes you'll go, right, okay, I haven't had time to start this today, so it's 4:30. I'm going to start this massive chunk of work now. Well, you're either going to work till 9 o'clock, or you're going to stop halfway through a task. You know, look at where you put those large chunks of work within your diary. Put those in first, then the smaller chunks, and then get the tiny little, you know, it's like the rocks, the pebbles, and the sand. You know, put your rocks in your bucket first, your sand will fill in around it, and your pebbles will fill in around it, rather than sort of fill your bucket half full of sand, then trying to put your big chunks of rocks in the top. You've got no room for anything else. So, you know, there's a bit of diary management, a bit of sort of managing what you're doing, which will help you as well.
Yeah.
And every time you cross something off your list, you get that little dopamine hit, don't you?
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's why you're really a little late, Charlotte.
Yeah. You know what I do though as well? If I've maybe not started my list, say it's 9 o'clock and I've already done some jobs, but I'm now writing my list for the day, those jobs will be at the top of the list, ticked off.
That's it.
Because you don't want to miss out on that dopamine hit.
Life hack.
Look at me, it's 8 o'clock and I've done a day's work already.
Winning.
Too right. I am awesome.
So hopefully that one has answered the perception of going back to work and being busy and stuff like that, and because I think we had a couple of questions that were fairly similar. You kind of know if you already know what's coming, you're one step ahead of the curve. Like you've got to learn to plan around it, you know. And what I would say about that is you've got to apply the law of reasonableness. So what is that? There's going to be times when you can be 100% with training, and I'm going to apply this to an Olympic athlete type scenario. There's going to be a time when they focus on solely training, and nutrition can slip because the training's so heavy. There could be a time when training drops and nutrition can be absolutely on point. There can only be a small finite window when everything is going 100% perfect, and that's generally just before the games is coming up. So how does that apply to 40-year-old Barbara from the local hairdressers? Well, if Barbara wants to get super duper fit, she's got to understand that, okay, she might be able to do the training really, 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 really well. The nutrition might not be the biggest habit she focuses on. She might be able to do the nutrition really well, but the training might have to slip back. She might be able to do both for a really short time, but something is going to slip. So you've got to understand that. And that's the same with business. So if you are going back to work, but you don't want your fitness to slip, listen, if you train 6 days a week and you drop down to 3 days a week, you're not going to lose a lot of your gains. So don't worry about that. But there's going to be a time and a place where you're going to have to prioritize what you can and can't do. You've only got a certain amount of energy, and you can only just top that battery up every now and again. Okay, it's done with sleep, good nutrition and stuff like that. But over the day, you can only physically give so much until it becomes energy that isn't really effective. So understanding that, if you're starting a business from scratch, or if you're doing a new venture, don't worry about being the fittest you have ever been and comparing yourself to when you're the fittest you've ever been. It's because you can't give it all to one thing. You can only give it to all one thing. You can't do everything, you know. So I think people really need to understand that as well, you know. So if you're going to go back to work and you're self-employed, there's going to be a time when your training frequency is going to drop down. But accept that. Know that it's coming. But what can you do? And this might just change the style of training you're doing. And you might change your day-to-day daily habits just to negate some of the effects of not training 6 days a week. Okay, but you know what's coming, so start planning around it. So hopefully that answers their question.
I was going to say, and I think just very quickly leading on from that, learn to forgive yourself. Because if you don't actually cut yourself a bit of slack, if you don't forgive yourself, then that's going to increase your stress, and you're just going to go round and round and round, big old circle.
I think all three of us have been there, haven't we?
Don't know what you're talking about, Charlotte. I'm perfect.
Yeah, but we've come out the other end and we've learned from it, and like you're saying, we know that you can't do it all.
No,
it's just not possible.
No, that's it, and that's why you need to build a network around you, and you've got that with the community, you know. So
good stuff. So good question from Steph regarding being stressed, and can stress stop your progress, or can it help at times? As she self-confessed, a bit of a stress head and a worrier, but also she said, you know, stress and worry before games and competitions, you know, is that a good thing? She does get stressed, but if she's too relaxed, then she wouldn't perform as well. So it's a good question from her regards to, so it's very sport specific.
Yeah, so that's two things that really is two things. So first and foremost, if you are stressed outside of the training environment or the competition environment, yes, it will slow your gains down and it will halt your progress. 100%. We know that from a biological point of view. We know that from a physiological point of view. We know that from a psychological point of view. If you are stressed outside of the training environment, you will halt your progress, because it's basic human physiology. Because for it to develop and for muscle growth to occur and for fat burning to occur in its purest sense, you can't have too much cortisol flying around your body. You just can't. It's as simple as that. Don't blame me. That's not the Steve Gordon. That's not the Tune Over thing. That's not the NEPC thing. That don't shoot the messenger. That is what is happening. Okay.
We talked about that last week, didn't we? As
Yeah.
well, and that about recovery and and the levels of cortisol.
Exactly. So first and foremost, yes, it will halt your progress. Now, in the training environment, is it stress, or is it the symptoms that run parallel with stress? So what do I mean by that? Well, the symptoms of stress is raised heart rate, reduced appetite, raised body temperature, and blood pumping to essential organs, heart rate, lungs, muscles. That's the same as excitement. You're excited to play the game. So you need to flip that. I'm not stressed before a game. I'm excited. I'm not stressed before a competition. I'm excited. And that just flips the switch. And you need to have that excitement, because that's what's going to get you in the zone and going to force you to go, right, okay, I am here to do my job of lifting kettlebells, lifting weight, playing basketball, playing football, playing rugby, whatever it may be. And you need that to get into Csikszentmihalyi's flow state. Do you know? That's what you need. So I think that's a double-barreled question. There's two questions in that. So first and foremost, outside of the training, yes, it does stop your progress. So again, stop focusing on what you can't control and focus on what you can. That'll generally just slow that cycle down. When it comes to training, you're not stressed, you're excited.
Yeah, good. I think we've all been there as well, haven't we? By the same token, you can, if that adrenaline takes over and you become too excited, that also can hinder your performance, can't it? So it's kind of, you've got to get that balance right. And that goes back to, I suppose, what we were saying at the beginning about different stresses and competitions, and understanding how you respond in competitions and your run up to competitions, and having strategies in place. Because too much stress and you go up and you've got the jitters and you can't do anything.
Yeah.
First 30 seconds of a lift, my arms are going up like this. It's like control, breathe. So it's getting that balance right.
And I think that's individual. So I think you've got to use all of this time to reflect on going back to what happened when you did a good performance and what happens when you don't. Johnny Wilkinson, the poster boy of English rugby, one of the greatest rugby players of all time in England, he used to throw up before a game. He used to have that much pressure from himself and demand the highest standards of himself. But you've got other people who were so laid back and chilled and just flowed. You look at how Maradona used to warm up on the football pitch, his socks down, shoelaces undone, just kicking the ball about, catch shot at the back of his neck, and yet he would just single-handedly kind of win World Cups. Do you know?
Literally single-handedly.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's again, that's individual and stuff as well. So I think you've got to look at what there's a good time for stress to occur, but it's how you manage it for your individual needs.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, some of that, it's a lead into kind of next week's theme really, but that some of that in the competition, as Steph's talking about, is about your mindset, isn't it? Wow. And what you're focusing on before the competition. I remember once going into it was a Darlington 10K, and I had properly wound myself up about this 10K, and I literally ran the entire run just with jelly legs, because I just had that much going around my body and I just couldn't control it, because I was far too anxious and excited and stressed, because I was just desperate to get this amazing time. And in the end, I just absolutely buckled, because I'd just wound myself up far too much. There was too much going on in my body. And I literally just couldn't run. horrible.
It is.
Not nice.
It's what happens. I went through a massive spurt, and I still struggle mentally in my sport. You know, it's the nature of the beast. You know, because sometimes you just focus on what's going to go wrong. But again, that's lead back into next week's topic of mindset. You know, so what was kind of the next question on there, Charles? Obviously, if we move on from, I think we answered Steph's there. Unless
we answered Steph's. I think we had. I think Lizzie's and Sam's was more about the stress.
What happens when I go back to the gym
as well, wasn't it? Yeah. So that was more about what's going.
But that was going back to the gym, wasn't it? They can't get motivated now when they're struggling or wondering about what happens when I go back to the gym.
Feeling stressed about not being motivated, I think is not being able to. And that was Lee as well, was very much about stress through work affecting his motivation to train as well, which, you know, is an interesting one, isn't it? Because again, it's how you perceive that that stress, and actually, is it that's affecting your motivation? And again, that's probably more about mindset, I think, as well, mindset and motivation for Lizzie and Sam and Lee.
Yeah. So again, that comes to perception, and it comes back to what if I go back to the gym and I've lost all my gains? It feels like I'm losing everything. Compared to what? Compared to what? It's like the person stood in a greenhouse complaining of smashed windows, yet they're still chucking stones. You got to focus on what you can control. And I agree. When you get stressed, motivation can wane. But that goes back to, why do you do it in the first place? You know, you get stressed at a partner, you don't stop loving them. Do you? It doesn't happen. You have a fallout with your partner, you don't stop loving them. Your child really annoys you, you don't stop loving them. It's unconditional. So you need to use that and put it on yourself. At the end of the day, it's you've got to love yourself so much. And I think Will Smith said it great, is like, sometimes you've got to say, I know you're stressed and I know you've had a hard day at work, but I love you too much to let you sit on the couch and wallow in self-pity. Do you know what? That pizza on there, or the takeaway, or the chocolate, or the sweets looks really, really good and you'll really enjoy it. But chances are you're going to feel like a sack of crap once you've finished it. And I love you too much not to allow you to eat that. So we're not going to do it. You had a crappy day at work. It sometimes knocks you for bits. You might have a really difficult session planned, but you can still go out and go for a walk. I love myself too much to not do some form of exercise that's going to improve myself physically and mentally. Because the chances are is we always feel guilty, don't we? When we pig out on something, I speak firsthand of this. I always feel guilty for it. And it's like, but you put yourself in that situation. So sometimes you've got to take responsibility for your actions, but also if you're getting stressed and it's losing your motivation, you've got to put the emphasis on yourself, and you've got to refill your cup, like we were talking about earlier, because you have to. We sometimes, and I notice this a lot with people who work in jobs of servicing other people and helping other people. And I'm talking about nurses and teachers and stuff like that. Their role is always about servicing other people, ourselves as well. We live and strive for helping other people. So then what do? We neglect looking after ourselves. So we need to use that same situation and that compassion and the empathy we show for our clients and the children we teach and the patients we look after and the clients we service. We need to use that for ourselves. And that's really, really difficult, because guess what? We've been programmed to say, oh, you're being selfish. Being selfish is a really bad thing. So I tell you what, you're not allowed to love yourself. you know?
I think as well that what you've got to remember is that if you're stressed out, doing something like eating a pizza or drinking a bottle of wine is actually, at the end of that, the result is more stress. That isn't going to relax you.
Yeah.
But actually, if you want a piece of pizza, say to yourself, do you know what? I'm good today. I'm going to have a piece of pizza. I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to move on. But I'm not going to eat. I trust myself enough not to eat the whole entire pizza. Deal with it, enjoy it, then move on if you're really going to eat a piece of pizza.
Yeah.
But don't then sit there and go, oh, I'm the worst person. I am a bad person because I ate pizza.
I can't believe I've just eaten a bit of pizza.
It's actually, do you know what? I'll let you into a little secret, everyone. I ate a massive bag of Haribo the other day. It was, right, it was big. Now, I didn't wake up obese, I don't think, the next day, but I also didn't beat myself up about it. I wanted some sugar. I was tired. Yeah, I did probably the worst thing from body I could have done. But you know what? I wasn't going to sit there and beat myself up about it because I actually really enjoyed them. And I don't do it every day and it's not a habit. But if I'd sat there and gone, oh, I'm such a bad person, I would have just stressed myself out even more. Do you know? And it's like, that just leads to more stress, more cortisol. So you're actually then in a vicious circle and then you want some more sugar or some more pizza. So you're not actually doing yourself any favors. But if you do want a piece of pizza, just have one, just move on. Just leave it.
But I think also, I'm kind of looking at the black and white of going back into the gym. Some of the happiest times that you get in the gym are when you're making progress. Now, if you have slipped a bit, you have the opportunity to make all of that progress all over again. But because you know how to move, you remember how to move, you're going to make that progress so much quicker.
Yeah.
And so
you're not going back to square one, are you?
You're never going to go back to square one. You're just not. But because you've got those sport-specific skills, so you're never going to go back to square one, but you've got that opportunity to get back all of that, that sort of motivation of, my God, I've just smashed. What is it at the minute? A PB. My God, I've just smashed. I want another PB. If you can go into the gym and smash a PB every time you went in the gym, you'd be training 4 times a day. So you've got that opportunity again. And again, it goes back to, is it the fear of that? Is it the fear that it's going to hurt? Well, actually, the endorphins that releases, we're going to feel brilliant afterwards. Or is it the fear of what people are going to think? And I tell you what, if it's the fear of what people are going to think, everybody is going to be so happy to see all of their friends after lockdown. that is just, it's just a different way of thinking about it. But that's probably more likely to be the truth.
Yeah.
And the thing is from a physical point of view, strength, if you are doing consistent training, you can maintain your strength gains from a specific block for up to 12 to 16 weeks.
It ain't going to go up. Yeah, we know that.
So you worry again. You're worrying about something that's generally not true. So I think some people, need to cut themselves a bit slack. 2, you need to hold yourself responsible at times, and that responsibility and the discipline comes from you need to use it with yourself, and you need to tell yourself you love yourself too much to stop you doing whatever it is that's going to take you off course from what you're trying to achieve. And 3, you need to change the scenario, what you're painting. I'm dreading going back to the gym. Why? I'm dreading going back to seeing all these people that know my name and ask me how I am and show an interest in me and I have a laugh with, and I want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go and exercise with these people. I'm so scared of what they're going to think of me. Come on, man. Come on. It's not that bad, guys. It really isn't,
Yeah. Good stuff. I think that has wrapped up all the questions, guys.
Good stuff.
Hopefully.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's. Listen, I just want to finish off with this. I'm not belittling stress. I'm not belittling people who take time off work through stress and stuff like that, because it is a crippling thing, you know. But what I'm trying to say is, I want to put some light on it. Is try and develop the skills on how you perceive stress, because I think a lot of people don't know how to perceive it. And once you know how to understand and deal with stress, you're less likely to get yourself into a massively stressed state, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. Hopefully that helps, guys, you know.
And as always, if you do need any extra help or support, please get in touch, because that's what we're here to, we're here to help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Cool.
Final say, Steve?
I have got a final say. I'm looking for my quote. Where's my quote? Okay, so we're going to finish off this week's session with: stop being afraid of what could go wrong and start being excited about what could go right.
Love that.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. And
Brilliant.
Because it was written by somebody unknown, it was written by Steve Gordon 2020.
Of course it was.
It's like that plot of land the council keep on taking from somebody. We can't find the owner, so we're going to claim it for ourselves.
Yeah. Squatters' rights.
Exactly. If I say it enough, I came up with it.
Thanks, guys. That was brilliant. Really
have a good one, guys. Awesome work.
Take care.
Take care.